Right, boys, welcome to Green Sunrise Podcast. Brian Mitchell, we have Brian Mitchell here today and John Paul Guest. Boys, how are we? Starting with you, Brian Mitchell.
I'm fine. Looking forward to another episode with a lovely John Paul. I think it'll be very interesting and it will be some good topics, some good subjects tonight. So I'm really looking forward to it. John Paul's a lovely guy and be interesting to hear his story and everything he's got to tell us.
Yes. And John Paul, sorry about the technical difficulties beforehand.
Nah, it's okay, mate. It's okay.
But welcome to Green Sunrise, mate.
Thank you so much.
John, where did I meet you? What was the suicide prevention meet?
Yeah, it was the Suicide Prevention Conference that was at the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, of all places.
That's right. When was that? Was that about a year ago? Just over a year ago?
It was about 2 years ago now, roughly.
What?
Uh-huh.
Mate, that just shows you done it, man.
I know, mate. I know.
2 years just goes like that.
Yeah.
And
so why were you there, John Paul? What was the...
Back in my old place of employment, I was undergoing the mentorship program. Now, my chosen subject area was complete and utterly niche, right? I went above and beyond and decided to go down the route of mental health, which in the world of telecoms is never spoken about. You're always seen as being someone that no one wants to relate to. If you've got a mental health issue in telecoms, that's it. You're a nobody. No one wants to know you. No one wants to talk to you. No one wants to even believe you when you go to your managers and put in complaints. All you get told is, are you sure it's not in your head? Are you sure you're not imagining it?
That's unacceptable, isn't it, in this day and age? I mean,
yeah.
For most episodes, I talk about how positive my workplace is at the moment in terms of what they do. And they've actually get designated, I work for an insurance company, John Paul, and they've actually get designated mental health first aiders, which I've been with that company only 3 years and that. I think that's a wonderful thing. Certainly anywhere else that I worked, never first aiders, but not mental health, trained mental health first aiders.
Yeah.
And all workplaces should be like that. But it doesn't sadly, it doesn't surprise me what you've said there. I think you probably find more often than not that is the sort of attitude to mental health that still prevails. And that's why we're trying to do
wrong, Brian. They did have mental health first aiders, but they were never spoken about. And it was only when I started doing that subject for my mentorship program that I brought it to light. That I brought the whole issue of, the company's got mental health first aiders, but no one uses them. No one knows about them. No one wants to even speak to them because they're all too scared.
So do you think it was a tick the box exercise? Yeah. And it wasn't anything that was getting proactively done? Because I think that's a big difference then from where I work. It's very proactive. It's mentioned quite a lot, and it all gets used a lot. They've got rooms to go into and stuff. But that's a shame. But I think a lot of places, not just with mental health, but health and safety and anything that's there to provide a better workplace environment. A lot of companies, big corporations especially, just like to tick the box and then it just goes on about the profit, productivity. That is the reality. The reality. Every workplace will have their own. They will have their own so-called workplace charters, objectives, and things that they will tell their workplace is available. But for too many of them, they just solely focus on their own productivity before concentrating on the welfare of their staff. But that's a shame you experienced that. And it was good to see that you were doing something, because that's something that you always do, Paul, isn't it?
Aye.
You're very proactive, and that's what's created Green Sunrise Podcast.
Aye, and it was great to meet John Paul on the day of that, obviously in Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, I was actually, I think I was speaking to John Gibson, who I would like to get on to the podcast as well. So I'll speak more about John Gibson in the future. But John Paul was sitting on the same table as me, and I thought I'll go and speak to John Paul, and with a wee quick chat. It was a beautiful chat. It was a great chat,
Hmm.
and we did speak a wee bit about what was happening at your work. But you were in good spirits, obviously. I think it was a great day, wasn't it, John Paul?
Oh,
It
it was
was
fantastic. Best day ever. So it was.
there was lots of singing as well that night, and I think that singing's a good part of kind of mental health. But
Uh huh.
there was bits we were watching, and that didn't stop us from kind of get a good chat about our own mental health. And the suicide prevention was obviously in both our hearts to get it out there. And I'm glad that you've agreed to come on the podcast as well, mate. So thank you.
Yeah, no, honestly, see, ever since that day, Paul, when I met you and I met a few other ones, from Andy's Man Club and everything like that,
Yeah,
it was all thanks to everyone that I met there that really pushed me forward and
yeah,
driving through that mentorship program.
yeah.
Sadly, I left the company before I came to the end of it,
Mm,
and since then, I have heard in the grapevine that all my hard work that I've done to bring things to light has been swept back under the carpet.
right. Aye.
But in my new place, I've now been awarded the position of what's called a Gen Leader for
Oh, brilliant.
Gen Equality, right? So I got that news today, and from the
Congratulations.
last, thank you very much, from the last meeting that I had with them, they were so keen to start moving forward with ideas that I was given, because the system was how, oh, you're rather quiet, John Paul. Have you not got anything to say? He says, well, I'm sorry, but I've I've been through all this before in my last place of employment. I've heard it all, I've seen it all,
Yeah,
and I need you as a company to show me that you are willing to listen to what I've got to say.
yeah,
They've took everything that I've said on board about how when I ran a cafe in my last place of work and I was successful. They've took all them ideas and they've contacted me today saying, listen, we want to ask you to be one of the Gen Leaders, but to run the mental health side of things. Because you've got all these ideas. When I was doing my platform, I was putting up documents for ones to go on for self help and self meditation, stuff like that. And just doing like simple questionnaires for people to identify in themselves, are you suffering from mental health? Are you suffering in silence? Should you speak up? Should you not speak up? How do you move forward with that?
Sorry, John Paul, what is a Gen Leader? What is that going to? How many people will you be helping? Is that
It's
you
going to
know,
be the entire company. So the company that I work for, M Group, we are based all over Scotland. We're based all over England. There's multiple divisions within the company, and there's close to, I think there's, last time I heard there was close to just over 1 million employees or something like that, or a few thousand employees. I'm not sure the numbers, but it's ones who are looking for leaders to come on board and drive the whole gender equality to fruition. Because gender equality covers so many different things. It covers, gender identity. It covers, neurodivergence. It covers a vast amount of topics. But my main area of focus, and Paul knows this himself, is mental health.
yeah,
I
I
suffer
think
from ADHD. It's not easy for me to function on certain days. Even when I'm on my medication, it's still not easy for me to function on certain days. But from that one day of sitting with Paul and the other ones and speaking to all the different, charities that were there, different companies that were there, just speaking to everyone and just getting myself out of that wee bubble that I'm usually in and opening up and talking to people, it changed my life.
yeah,
I think that would be a excellent episode in its own because
yeah.
there's no doubt is that when it comes to gender identity, it's a big topic at the moment.
Hmm.
People hijack on that. I think people provide a lot of misinformation and I would definitely be interested in the how you progress with that, John Paul.
Yeah.
How it's going, what's the what you're doing, what the what you're finding, any successes, any
Uh-huh.
difficulties, and just to come on and explain a wee bit more of the gender identity, because we're obviously going to be discussing health issues on this episode and the impact of mental health. But Paul, I
Uh-huh.
think it's definitely a future
And
episode.
the great thing about this, Brian, is John Paul. I've spoke to John Paul about this as well. He would be able to. He'll be coming on to run that
Yeah,
episode. And
definitely.
and because we've got definitely plenty of people, I could actually, I've got 4 or 5 people already that have come into my head that would be able to add great advice and also great experience about their own journey through that. So this
Mhm.
is that this wasn't
Yeah.
even on the script, so I'm glad you brought it up, John
Oh,
Paul.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be one that I think that would be one where you would be a co-host, John Paul, with Paul, and I would look forward to assisting with that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you two would be ideal for that episode. But I think that is definitely a topic that we have to cover,
Oh, definitely.
undoubtedly.
So, topics that we're covering today. So, on the main point, somebody had said to me the last podcast they'd watched, and Brian, me and you spoke about the fact is we actually want people to give us constructive criticism, right?
Yeah.
Somebody had said to me, so I was a bit unsure what the episode was about. So, even although they watched the last episode, and it was clearly ultra marathon runners, close to our hearts, but they didn't really know what it's about. So today's podcast is about, we're going to talk about loneliness, mental health, as
Mhm.
always, and
Yeah.
living with 10 centimetres sliding hiatus hernia, which obviously is why John Paul has come on today. So that's what we're going to talk about. We are going to talk about as much as we can through this. And let's see what it leads to, right? So,
Yeah.
John Paul, you're going to share with us your personal experience again with loneliness, because obviously the loneliness is attached to the stuff that you've been going through,
Yeah.
and how it affects your daily life. John Paul, how would you kind of start with that?
Well, main key issue for me is the whole ADHD side of things. It's some people can say that it's a superpower. Some people say it's a hindrance. Other people may say it's just purely bad behaviour. For me, there's days where it can be a superpower, but there's days where it's a hindrance. And there's times where I do get really lonely. I've got my family, my parents, my brothers, I've got cousins, nieces, and nephews. They all love me to bits. And I do spend as much time with my nieces and nephews as much as I can. But when you revert back to that wee bubble and you shut yourself off and you shut yourself away from the whole universe and the whole world, you tell if you go out, it's like, oh, it's just a task, it's a chore. I'm out all on my own. Even if I go with friends or go out with my two brothers every now and then, it still can be lonely. Despite having people with you, it still can be lonely. And that whole aspect of loneliness, it just messes with your mental health.
Yeah.
You just don't want to communicate with anyone. You don't want to go anywhere. You just lock yourself away. You put music on, listen to your music through headphones. It it doesn't matter what you do. There's days where you cannot focus, you cannot cope with it, and you just cannot be bothered with anything or anyone, and you just want to shut yourself away from everything.
I think that's a good a point that you make in terms of even when you're uh, surrounded with people and you've got people in your life. Paul, you just mentioned feedback not long ago, and after one of the previous episodes, somebody came up to me and somebody that I know that I would have described them as an extremely popular person. They appeared to be extremely popular, family, and wife, children, and yeah, loads and loads and loads of friends. And they come up to me, and I was nearly floored because they basically said to me they feel the loneliest person in the world, and they were questioning the validity of the relationships that they had, questioning whether the friends that they had, an abundance of friends, were actually true friends. And he asked me for any guidance that I could get, and I did guidance that I could give. And I spoke to you as well, Paul, about it.
Yeah.
The best place for them to go because they needed to find a headspace to try and to deal with that. But it was obviously some people would say that he was obviously suffered from depression, but his depression seemed to be he felt the loneliest person in the world, despite being surrounded by people.
Yeah.
And I found that really sad, heartbreaking for the person. I could understand it. But it was the surprise and the shock because anybody looking at him would have thought, well, there's a guy that's got everything in place. I wouldn't mind a bit of he's got,
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's at, if he's got any underlying, I don't know really, I'm not well enough, any underlying health issues or anything like yourself, what you've mentioned, John Paul, but it's certainly something that people should always be prepared for, friends coming up to them and give them any support. Because no doubt he probably, or I'm saying no doubt, perhaps he's got friends that would be there for him through thick and thin, and he doesn't realise that because he's not had the bravery to have a conversation with somebody, which is the
Yeah.
hardest thing to say to one of your friends. Do you know what? I feel depressed. I feel down because you said, John Paul, earlier on in the episode, a lot of people, oh, you sure it's not just in your head? And the
Aye.
thing is,
Yeah.
it is in the head, but that's where that is where the trouble is, and they
Yeah.
need support and they need help with that.
Yeah. And that's what we talk about, like groups, John Paul. Do you know what I mean? We spoke
Yeah.
about, we met the guys for Andy's Man Club and how important that was for us to reach out to them.
Yeah.
But how also it can make you feel really bad because you don't want to be that burden, don't you know? And
Exactly.
but that's why there's only so much. So people feel like there's only so much time you can like ask your family for, but really, so when your family you've came to that end, you've like right, I've went to my family too much.
Yeah.
I need to go with these boys for Andy's Man Club or the boys like we spoke about the boys from Men Matter Scotland.
Yeah.
There are many guys and organisations like that are in Glasgow. It's probably John Paul. Where is it you're from again?
Well, I stay in Tory Glen, but I'm originally from Newcastle.
Right, so you're from Newcastle.
Yeah.
So even that Tory Glen is there anywhere in Tory Glen? There's
Nope.
places. No, you don't have any
Not
pubs.
whatsoever. The only
Mm.
clubs that are around this area is for kids, and that's about it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. And
That's something
I'll
we'll maybe look into, Paul, as well. So if you can come up with something,
well,
Um,
this Brian, I think this online thing, right? So if we can run, and I know it's not everything, but people can run these online stuff, right? And then organise to go and meet somebody, and that's free,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So me and you, Brian, have already spoke about the walking club, right, opening
Yeah.
that back up, right? I think that
Hmm.
will be a thing again. Uh,
Definitely.
and I think even who's to say that you have to go walking, right? You need, so for example, you're for Tory Glen, John Paul.
Yeah.
Who's to say that you need to go to Bishop Riggs? Why don't we organise a thing where it's a video chat and we're going for a walk, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok's massive for people
Uh huh.
just going and meeting people. I know it's online, but
An online walk, that's an excellent idea, actually.
an online walk.
Exactly.
That is an excellent idea.
So there's things that we can look at, And I know, for example, and even if there's a guy who doesn't want to go the walk, the guy can sit in the house and just say, right, I just want to
Yeah.
get involved in this conversation. And it's opening up
Yeah.
that avenue. Do you know what I mean? TikTok's really good for that. It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I know. I
there's
like that. I like that idea. Definitely.
Same.
uh, but it's funny, Brian, that they've been doing it for since TikTok's began, or
Yeah,
people
it's
got
something
famous.
I've never been aware of.
But well, I've noticed people going live, right? And I've always done that, right? What's the point of your live? And I'm like that. Sometimes there doesn't need to be a point. The whole point is people are meeting online and they're talking.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know that we've got a guy called Elvis or Rick. There's that. Well, no guy to come on the podcast. I'll wind him up about that. But he does these TikTok things all the time, and he would definitely be up for coming on as a co-host and a guest because
Yeah.
he's got a massive story. But he runs stuff, and he just all he does is talk. Just talks online and on TikTok about whatever it's going to be. And every time that I'm looking on his TikTok, there's different people. There's always different people. So I could imagine his popularity grows every day as well. But he doesn't. He's a real guy, and he just talks real, and it's always about
Yeah.
just what's happening. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Being
this could be
part of
something.
being part of something's vital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And having people that you can talk to. I mean, I do
yeah,
I've now, I'm in Man v Fat football, and
yeah,
that's not really about football. That to me is about, obviously, it's the objective is about, try to lose weight. It's the community that is, and meeting
yeah.
people, and you meet loads of different friends. You see them once a week at a minimum, and see, for mental health, it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
it is phenomenal, Brian. And I think if we can do that, we can get that up like that. Then, aye, let's do it. Let's do it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm just making the screen a bit bigger here on the other side here,
Yeah,
boys.
because I mean, it also gives you something to look forward to as your week goes on. The hustle and bustle. John Paul, you've got quite a stressful job as well. Spoke
Yeah.
to you about that, and obviously the work that you're taking on as well will add to that. So yeah, you need that. You need the to share your thoughts. Sometimes you just need that.
Yeah.
You need you do need a shoulder to, and it's a catchphrase, but you do need a shoulder to cry on sometimes, or
Yeah.
Aye.
somebody just chew the fat with and ask how's your day going. And
Well, Brian, me and you have like, I mean, I've been when I've struggled with my own stuff, right? Without getting into depths with it a bit, but when I've struggled with stuff, I've phoned you, or I've phoned other guys. And I've done that. Look, I'm struggling. All right, let's go meet for a pint.
I had
It's
a
no,
coffee. You went
or
met
or a
for a
coffee.
coffee.
Aye.
And in fact, we've probably went for more coffees recently than pints, but the and that's no lie, John Paul, but it's great because if sometimes because mental health and life is so fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, man, and I think we forget that we've got the gift of the gab, right? Or some of us do anyway. But we forget that we can just go like that to somebody. Me, I'm struggling with something. Fancy meeting for a coffee, and
Aye.
it doesn't completely solve the problem, right? But it definitely halves it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it makes you think differently. So, aye, definitely. I think that there's something in this. Uh, was going to say to you. So,
We're going to talk about, obviously,
because
John Paul wants to share these
yeah,
issues he's had with his health as well.
right, yeah. So first of all, John Paul, what is hiatus hernia? What is a hiatus hernia for anybody who doesn't know that? Because I didn't know it until I'd kind of spoke to
Yeah.
you. I've
So.
now spoke to you and some other people, and I'm like, whoa.
Uh-huh.
So it can be a really stressful thing, and it can be quite tough.
Yeah.
So
So
what is it?
so for people who don't know what it is, basically it's a tear in your diaphragm. So see where your esophagus meets the stomach, there's a tear in that diaphragm, right? Now as you're breathing in and out and you're eating, your diaphragm tends to move quite a lot. So every time that moves, it causes the pain. Now, the pain can go from simple stabbing pain right through to, thinking that you're having a heart attack.
Right.
It can be the most scariest experience of your life. Now, when I first realised I was having so much pain, I instantly thought, shit, I'm having a heart attack. When I knew that was happening, I was clutching my chest, but my workplace didn't send for an ambulance or it like that. They just says, oh, sit down for 5-10 minutes, see if the pain passes. If the pain doesn't pass, just get yourself to the hospital and get checked out. Well, at the time, in the place that I was working, they did frown upon anyone being sick or being ill or sustaining injuries, because it's the whole ethos of, oh, well, I'm having to fill in this accident logbook and I'm having to note everything down and make statements and all that sort of stuff. So they didn't really want to look at it that way. So my view then at the time was, stuff it. I'll just get a 5 minute sit down, go back and do my job. Now, when I was doing my job, finishing my shift, I was still in a serious amount of pain. Came home, parents knew I was in a lot of pain. Says to us, oh, get yourself to an A&E. Goes to an A&E. They goes to us, oh, well, you'll need to come back because you'll need to go for an endoscopy. So we'll write to your GP and we'll get you an appointment. Gets me an appointment through, go for my endoscopy. That's when they put the camera down and notice, right, you have got a tear in your diaphragm, but it moves. So they checked all the measurements and it says it's just 10 centimetres to now. I thought, well, how's that going to affect my life then?
Yeah.
But at that time when they actually diagnosed me, they didn't know how it would affect my life. They were just like, well, we'll need to send you for further tests.
Mhm.
Went for my further test. I had a barium meal done, which basically is a thick liquid that you swallow, and you get a full body scan top to toe to see, is there any blockages, is there any issues, anything like that. That came back absolutely clear, no issues, no blockages, no nothing. Everything was processing through my body as normal. Happy days. Thought, well, I can cope with the pain. It wasn't too bad in the beginning. So from there, I got sent to get a pH test done. Hated that. Basically, what they had to do was they had a wee monitor box and you had to get a nasal gastric tube inserted. Nah, that was the most uncomfortable thing I have ever had done. Having it pushed down the back of my nose into my throat, and then it just where the esophagus hits the stomach, right?
Mhm.
That the dentist was all about every time you have an episode, press the box to record it. And you press the start and then you press the stop just to record the length of time the episodes were happening. Well, mine's ended up coming out. So I did. So went back to the hospital, handed it all in, waited a couple of weeks, test results came back. Absolutely fine. No issues wrong with you. So that then
Wow.
made me think, is it all in my head? Am I just imagining these pains? But it was one day in work where I was literally in too much pain after having all these tests done. I was clutching my chest. I thought I was having a heart attack. And my employer says, oh, well, phone your GP first. See what they say. I just looked at him.
So when did you get sort of the actual diagnosis, John Paul, of what you had?
I got my diagnosis about coming up about 6, maybe 7 years ago now.
Yeah, and it was it quite quickly after that happened that they got you back in. They were able to identify what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, So what changes have you had to make? Because I've had family members with hiatus hernias and other ones with like ulcers and and I know how much an impact it's had for them.
Yeah,
What changes have you had to make? Has it been dietary changes,
I've had to make
exercise?
all changes. I've had to change my dietary. I've had to change my exercise regimes. I've literally had to change my entire life. So I've had to do a full 360 on life. So for me,
What have you done? What sort of things you've done then?
well, every morning I'm unable to eat. So see, between when I used to get up for work about 5:30, 5:45. So between the hours of about 5:30 and about 9 o'clock in the morning, I am unable to eat anything. If I eat anything, I vomit. And it's not normal vomit, it's actual, I vomit blood. Because my stomach starts retching, my throat starts retching, and then I just start vomiting blood. All my doctors know about all this, and all they keep saying was, "Oh well, we'll put you on to the likes of omeprazole because you've got a high acidity level." Well, it's no high acidity level. So now, in the morning, if I'm up at about 5:30, 5:45, I'll just have a basic yogurt for my breakfast to coat the lining of my throat and my stomach, everything like that. That's all I have for my breakfast now.
So what point of the day can you sort of start to eat normally, and what sort of things do you eat?
So normally I can start eating around about 10 o'clock. So that's usually when I'm in work. So nowadays when I'm in work, I've got like a small mini refrigerator at my desk, and I just keep the likes of fruit, some raisins, stuff like that, just as a small snack,
Yeah.
just so I don't overload things. When
And
it
how
comes
does
to
it? Sorry, on you go.
no, sorry, you go, Brian.
I was just going to say, I've got epilepsy, as I've mentioned it a million times now, but I know how much that impacts my mental health whenever I either
Uh-huh.
have a seizure or tiredness and the things that people maybe perhaps don't see. Um, so I know that any time that I suffer a seizure of that type, I find it really, really difficult, 'cause I've had it for 30 odd years. Feel a bit
Yeah.
sorry for myself as well. And then I tend to sort of think of, people that are worse off myself. But how does it impact your mental health having to deal with that
Mhm.
sort of every single day and the impact on your life?
It makes me not doesn't it makes me not want to go out because if I go out on the weekends, even if I just a simple coughing fit brings on my vomiting. And see when that happens and I'm in like Glasgow city centre and I just start coughing and I start retching and vomiting. See members of the public walking past, looking at me, going, "Oh well, he must be an alcoholic. He's drunk at this time in the day. He's already vomiting." I
Yeah.
don't want to go out.
Yeah, that's a shame. And I suppose that's a lesson for everybody, isn't it? That don't judge the book by the
Yeah.
cover, sort of
Exactly.
type thing. But so we were always obviously mentioning about doing something, again, like to combat loneliness and the online walking group.
Uh huh.
Um, when you feel you don't want to go out, John Paul, um, how how do you overcome that, or what is it you're doing to get by?
Yeah.
So for me, if if my if I get really bad and I really don't want to go out, I'll just listen to relaxing music, put a wee incense burner on, let that slowly burn away just to calm myself down and relax. And then normally after I've done, that whole process, I start feeling a lot better, I feel more myself. And then I'm like, right, it's still early enough in the day. I've still got a wee bit of time that I can go out, even if it's just for a wee walk or if it's up to Rutherglen or places like that.
Yeah.
I will go push myself and go back out. You know, for me, it's a case of finding that calm space first to begin with, and then once I know I'm out of that initial stage where I'm like, I don't want to go out, I don't want to go out, I don't want anyone seeing this, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to do this, stuff like that. Once I get past that initial stage, I'm then back to my normal self where I can go, well, I'm going out, sod what anyone has to say about this.
Yeah.
If I start coughing and if I start feeling sick, sod them.
So,
They can
so
make fun of us, they can call me whatever they want.
so John Paul, even so, sometimes you can find that it can be very misunderstood for
Hmm.
people, and obviously with you trying to negotiate that, how do you negotiate it when it is so misunderstood? Do you get angry and then do you kind of what happens then?
Well, I don't get angry, I just start getting severely depressed.
Yeah,
I just
so it
go
just
into
brings
a
you down.
state of I just go into a state of major depression where that's me. It will affect practically everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Is your hiatus hernia, is it on the sort of severer side of it, or is your hiatus hernia, to the best of your knowledge, is that how it impacts everybody? I mean, I tend to have maybe a seizure or a big grand mal, shall we say,
Yeah,
because there's different ones every single day, but a big grand mal every 6 months at the moment,
yeah,
and there's, goodness me, you see there's poor kids that have like 20 and 30 a day. So
aye.
I don't consider mine in any way serious. Um, so how do you know other people with the condition? Is yours?
No,
Aye, so John Paul, before you answer that, Brian, because that's a really good question, a really good point. Somebody I've spoke to somebody. Well, I've not spoke to somebody through somebody who told me, "Oh, my kind of my brother-in-law's got that, or my stepbrother's got that," and they said to me that they done it at the gym. So I was going to ask you, how did it happen? How did you get it? Because can you get it at the gym as well by doing certain exercises?
you
And
can get it anywhere. So for me, it was the most stupidest of accidents you could ever imagine. So
right,
what had happened was, right, uh, where I was working, we were dealing with customers' laptops and desktop PCs, right? That we used like the stackable tote trays, right? So I had a big stack of those near my workstation, and I was scanning the barcodes on the laptops, and I was processing them to get them shipped back to the customer. Now I had the stack all set up. I went and moved it, but there was a small bit of metal sticking out of the concrete floor. Never seen it. Never knew it was there. So I
right.
started moving the stack of trays, and literally I just went straight over the top of them.
Oh, right. So the trays went down. You were over the top of the trays.
Yep. I literally went flying over the top of the trays. So as
Right.
soon as that stack of trays went down, I went down over on top.
And it was something like that, like an accident like that, and it's gave you. You've obviously
Yep.
wow, that's where it's been born in a sense.
John
Uh,
Paul, you've mentioned that you about medication earlier on, and have the GP's been unable to find a suitable medication for you?
yep, that's correct. So they put me on to omeprazole, and then they also says to me about taking, the likes of an antacid liquid,
Yeah.
and
And
literally nothing works.
is there a for your condition? Is there any medical surgery option at all to?
So, yeah, I was going to ask that, John Paul, because we spoke before, John Paul, that
Yeah,
is there was there there's an exercise you can do as well, isn't there?
I believe there is, but that's a very good question, Brian. Now, when I last seen my consultant surgeon about this, he did say there was an option for surgery. However, he operated on a patient like me before, and he actually caused more damage than help. So he did.
Yeah, so it's a high risk um, procedure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, the sort of procedures that they could have done for us is put like a metal mesh over the hole
Uh-huh.
to seal it, right? However, the last time he done that, he done what the surgeons had said was what he had done was put the mesh over, and then he also tightened the hole up, so it was a lot smaller than what it used to be. But that caused more damage to that patient than actual help. So that patient now has long suffering effects from that one simple operation to
Yeah.
repair the hernia.
Is there a percentage, John Paul, like, that, did you say there's a percentage if you do go for these operations that there's a large percentage that these things can happen? Or is it a
Yeah.
small percentage, or it's just that one person?
No,
Do you-
it's he did say there is a high percentage of the operation failing and
Right,
causing
okay.
more damage
Okay.
because basically what
Oh,
they're having to do is go in, put the mesh in, uh, and then start tightening that hole up so it shrinks. But the more pressure they put onto it to seal the hole up, the more damage it could potentially cause because you don't know whether or not there's enough body material in your diaphragm to cope with that pressure.
right.
So as soon as your diaphragm starts to tear, that basically starts going and fading away. So you basically it's dying off, and they don't know whether or not your body can cope with that sort of pressure. Some
Mm,
people may cope with the pressure and they can live a happy ending, and
yeah.
some people may go the opposite direction and can basically affect their entire life.
In terms of your condition, John Paul, obviously I've mentioned I've got epilepsy, and I know my underlying condition is covered under the current Equality Act
Yeah,
before the UK get a reform government and they do away with it.
Mm.
How is your condition also covered under that as an underlying? So you get
no,
that sort of workplace protection if you get so many absences, and is it not covered at all?
not that I'm aware of.
No, because I think that's not good. For want of a better word, I think that's
Yeah,
very unfortunate because as you mentioned, it's something that impacts on your daily life, and it's an underlying condition that you've got, and I
yeah,
think something like that should be covered under the Equality Act. As should all things that impact in people's
yeah,
life that doesn't allow them to provide, consistent attendance at work, or
uh-huh,
any condition that requires work. Work work should be, our employers should be held accountable to provide alternative measures or anything that you may need.
yeah,
For example, if in your instance, if you ever have shooting pains, then you can go away for your workplace for 5-10 minutes until it settles
yeah.
down without
See,
having.
that's Brian is what I love about my current place of employment at the M Group. When obviously when I had my interview with them, I did disclose everything, and I was like, listen, I am coming across. I do have a lot of mental health issues. There's been a few times 1 year where because I've also got asthma, if I get a cold, I get really bad. So basically, it'll start off in the head cold, and then it'll work all the way through my system, down into my lungs, and end up in being a chest infection. So I've told them all about that. I've told them, all about my hiatus hernia. And I said to my boss when I was being interviewed, if they ever see me sitting at my desk, clutching my heart or clutching my chest in pain, don't be alarmed. Just come make sure I'm fine. If it gets too severe, then that's when you need to, react quickly about it. But they're so accommodating, they're like, any
That's
issues like
good.
that, just work from home. If you get up in the morning and your hernia is that bad, we can arrange to bring your laptop to your house and just work from home.
That's great to hear. That is great to hear.
You know,
No.
I cannot fault them one little bit. Yeah, I've had issues in the past with other employers, where they've no been that sort of way, and they're like, well, technically, if we see you clutching your chest, we need to act upon it, relatively fast. And I'm like, no, you don't need to act on it fast. If you see me clutching my chest, you come up and you just check on this, you make sure I'm fine. If I'd say to you that, I am struggling with the pain, then that's when I need you to act upon it. But if
Yeah.
you come up and ask me, if see me clutching my chest, and I don't say anything about, oh, I cannot manage this pain, because some days I can tell, right, it's only a short episode, it's only going to last me 5 minutes. I've finally tuned it to where I can determine how long an episode can potentially last. I've been wrong a few times, but not many. But as long as you come up and you just sit next to me, or you put your hand on my shoulder, just make sure I'm fine. And if I turn around and say, listen, I am struggling with this pain, I need you to act upon it. You need to act upon it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would you agree, John Paul, that if any employers of any type are watching, that because they've got good staff engagement with you,
Yeah,
staff engagement leads to better productivity and people want to work
yeah,
for that employer? It's definitely. And if any employer is watching, please bear this in mind.
Yeah. Take note, and I think
yeah,
that would be it's definitely something that we need to be looked at for other companies, and hopefully take some advice from people like yourself, John Paul. John Paul, what would you say is what would your advice be to somebody? Because I was going to ask you as well, have you spoke to other people in your situation?
No, that's the thing. Well, I don't know anyone in my situation.
Right, okay.
But
And there's been no
honestly,
support groups?
my honest advice to anyone, if anyone is suffering from a hiatus hernia like myself, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Yes, it will be a part of your life for the rest of your life. But if you engage with your line manager and you explain to them, how you cope with it and how you can determine if an episode's going to happen and how you get yourself through that episode, then just do it.
yeah,
Don't be scared.
yeah,
Open up.
yeah. So your advice would be just kind of everything's going to be all right. Uh,
Yeah,
And do you
what's the
think
first?
that
Yeah,
that helps you, John Paul, with the times when you are feeling depressed because of it and you want to stay in the house, you don't want to go out? Do you think that how well you're treated at your work gives you some comfort and some positivity
yeah,
that helps you not feeling as bad as you may
yeah.
be? That's good. Sorry, Paul, what were you going to ask?
no, no, that's no. You've kind of covered it all, Brian. We've kind of covered everything. Yeah, we can. John Paul, what would you say would be the next? What's your next thing now that you're going to trying to achieve? Obviously, what's your main goal now? That because you're learning how to deal with this. What would you say was going to be the next bit? Because obviously you're in a good workplace.
Yeah,
Your mental health. Your mental health. I would say your mental health kind of message to people is quite strong, and it's getting stronger every day. What's next
yeah.
for you?
Well, for me, Paul, what's next is driving this forward and getting that message out there to all employers.
Yeah,
Don't treat your employees as if they're just a number.
yeah,
They're human beings. Everyone may sit and suffer in silence, but you don't have to.
yeah. Of course, of course.
And that's my main drive in life now, is to show everyone that, yeah, you've got mental health issues. Big deal. Don't see it as a negative thing, see it as a positive thing.
Yeah,
And if you're in the right place of employment and you've got the right managers who are there to support you, then life's a whole lot easier. As long as
yeah,
you're willing to open up and speak out, life will be a lot simpler.
yeah,
Yeah, the key obviously is the other side of that is where people have working places where they don't have support
Yeah,
and try to get that. message out to people because you spend most of your life, sadly, in work, and where do they people go? So if you are watching and you're in that situation, then
Yeah.
send it a wee message, maybe
Yeah,
come on,
and
and then we can.
that's a good thing. That's a good point, Brian. I think if anybody's got any, so for example, support groups regarding anything. So I've pointed out Men Matter Scotland, and also we've spoken about Andy's Man Club. If there's any organisations out there that can help, please make a comment. Let us know who you are, because we don't know them all. We could just Google it and see if there's anybody in our area. But
Yeah.
sometimes these places are hard to find as well. So please, if you're watching this and you know of an organisation that it's running, even if it's just online, but if there's anywhere else in Glasgow, Edinburgh, or anywhere else in Scotland, or even anywhere in the world, it could be in London, anywhere, right? If there's an organisation, just put it in, make a comment, and we can then talk about the comment as well, which brings us to the last wee bit, John Paul. We've spoke about, we're part of this podcast today, but we're going to look at some of our viewers and some of our audience and some of the questions about this 1 to 100 questions that we're running that we run on TikTok and elsewhere. John Paul, pick a number between 1 and 100, and let's finish today's episode of that. We can look at that question.
I'm going to pick 35, Paul.
35, right, let's just see. Has 35 been picked before, Brian? I don't think it has.
No, that I can remember. But numbers, as you know, numbers isn't my strong point.
35, John Paul, and Brian, we'll answer this together. How do you deal with uncertainty? Quite a hard one.
Oh, that's a
I'm
good one.
uncertain. I'm uncertain. Come on, I had to say that.
I would probably say that as well. How do you deal with uncertainty?
Listen, that is a very good question because see uncertainty, right? We live in a very we've mentioned workplace, right? We live in a very changing world. Things
Yeah.
are constantly changing, and sometimes when you get thrown into a scenario and you are uncertain of the outcome, you're not too sure. It can be quite daunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And only time that the only advice that sort of springs to mind right away for me is with uncertainty, is there is no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you are ever uncertain in dealing with uncertainty, then try and reach out. Now you might
Yeah.
find that the people that you're reaching out to, like, because you might not want to say. You don't want to. I think you mentioned earlier on this episode, you might not be what to be a burden. You might
Yeah.
think, well,
Yeah.
Well,
how do you ask this without being an idiot? But
it's funny. It's funny, John
that's
Paul,
the
that
only
you
way.
asked. Yeah, it's funny, John Paul, that you asked the 35 question, because in the 30 section it's the coping and resilience questions, right?
Yeah.
So that is as if we've kind of pre-planned that. This is what uncertainty, coping with uncertainty would be, this, like talking out loud,
Yeah.
making a comment, and open up a question for somebody else to answer. I think dealing with uncertainty is exactly what that is. Kind of, you need to reach out
Yeah.
and
100%.
get help.
Because uncertainty can often lead to worry, right?
Yeah.
And I was going to get a bit Star Wars there, and can get to fear. Fear leads to the dark side. But anyway, um, but when sometimes you get really uncertain and you get that worried and you think, oh God, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow in work? Or what's going to happen with my bills? Or what's going to happen with whatever? What's going to happen with my football team tomorrow night? You can that can turn into stress. That can turn
Yeah.
into worry. Somebody
Yeah.
like myself with epilepsy, it can turn into extreme seizures. John Paul, it could turn into you having an episode where you're
Yeah.
highest earner. I mean, if you let it fester and you let it,
Uh-huh.
keep going. So, and Paul, you mentioned, I think last week, loneliness is a killer. If
Yeah.
you are lonely, if you are stuck and you've got uncertain situations, and you don't know who to reach out, which is what the whole Green Sunrise podcast is part of its function is, and the hands across the table is, aye, reach out and somebody will be there. It's a good song, but it is true.
Yeah. I mean, if you're watching this and these one of your numbers, man, we'll ask a question. And remember that these 100 questions, they can lead to so much. That one question there, number 35, is kind of fitting.
And it's just made me realise, Paul, it's just made me realise, see somebody that asked the question about and said to you, what was it really about? Well, the whole thing about Green Sunrise podcast is, I would say, is it is about mental health. So whatever the subject matter is, somebody comes on and they're talking about, buying ice cream. It's all about how does that ice cream and how does that flavour help and impact your mental health. So that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to discuss. Everything revolves around mental health, and whatever it is, it's how do they help their mental health, and how can we help MD that is watching this, and that is the key that we're always trying to promote. So I can't stress that enough. And uncertainty can impact on people's mental health. There is nothing in the world that, especially at the moment, that does not impact on people's mental health.
No, there's definitely not, and I think,
and there's still not enough people want to talk about it, want to admit to their fears, their worries, their uncertainty. And hopefully, and it's a thing I love, Paul. We might not get, people might say, "Oh, why are they doing that? What's the point in Green Sunrise podcast?" Listen, after each of the last episodes that I've been on since we've come back, I have had one person, no, different people, obviously, but at least one person after each episode coming up to me and say, either they saw that podcast or they had been told by someone who had seen the podcast, can you give me 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And that is, it's a good story for us. It's a positive story. It's our North Star is to try and help people. So that is why we're doing it. If you're watching and you don't know what it's all about, that is what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much, Brian, and again, thank you so much, John Paul, for coming on, mate.
And we'll see you
so
soon.
much for having me.
We'll see you soon, John Paul, and obviously bear in mind let us know how you're getting on with the new role that you've been given and the gender identity stuff, and you will have to come back on. And remember, if you're ever feeling anybody in the Tory Glen area, Rutherglen area that does have a club or has somebody, then please let us know and we can pass that on to John Paul. But we're here, big chat, and we will see you on the Green Sunrise podcast soon.
Yeah,
and please as we always say, like and subscribe, and may your God go with you.
Like and subscribe, as my friend Tawai says, don't get wide. Like and subscribe, don't get wide. As my friend Tawai 50 says. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you soon, and have an excellent night and have an excellent week. All right, God bless.
Take care, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
All right.